It's time to feel what you've been bottling up. Life in rural America isn't easy. The long hours, the constant pressures, the demands of the land, livestock, and family, it all takes a toll. We're tough and we've got grit, but somewhere along the way, toughness started meaning bottling up emotions and powering through. But here's the truth. That strategy, it's not working and it's poisoning us. Maybe you've noticed and maybe you haven't, but the numbers don't lie. We're breaking down and it's showing up in our bodies, our relationships, and in the rising suicide rates in agriculture. You don't have to carry any of it alone. There's another way. If you're ready to stop being weighed down and start moving forward, my one-on-one good movement guidance is now open. Visit the link in the show notes to learn more and see if one-on-one guidance could be for you.
I'll carry you, you carry me, we'll help each other through it. Come on and see, good movement draws good movement.
Welcome to Good Movement Draws Good Movement, the podcast where farmers, ranchers, and rural folks can grow relationally through awareness, understanding, and effective communication. Hey, it's T. I'm your host, and I, along with my guests, will be covering topics related to drawing good movement. Things like self and social awareness, brain science, positive psychology, extending grace, and so much more. We'll share tools that can help you understand why you are the way you are, why others are the way they are, and how you can use that to step out of self-told lies with grace and compassion to draw good movement in conversations, relationships, and life in rural America. Let's go draw good movement. We're recording at night again, which is always, silliness. And we're sitting in different chairs.
And it's raining.
Yay, rain.
And no fires.
Yes. Okay. So welcome back to the Good Movement Draws Good Movement podcast. Obviously, Tom is back with us. Also, Tom has the headphones. So he's in charge, air quotes, in charge of this recording.
Don't you forget it.
But we are recording and it's all running together. The night before last, we were awakened at 1 a.m. because of a fire on the ranch. And as we were driving to go help put that fire out, we saw another fire on the ranch. So there were 2 fires. It was very dry. We had a couple dry cells. Apparently a couple moved through because we stayed up for the first one. Moved through and lightning started 2 fires. Anyway, in this episode, we're going to talk about how we prepare for the busy season, like set ourselves up for success communication wise, because we're just getting started into calving season. So about now through the end of June, it's busyness. But something I wanted to talk about before we got into all the things that we're going to talk about was the fire night. Like, I thought things went pretty smoothly.
They don't go much smoother.
I mean, between you and I on the same fire rig, and I'd never been on a fire before.
Especially at night.
In the dark.
In the rough places you should not go.
I would not have been as calm and cool and collected if it was daylight and I could have seen where we were driving.
Yeah, so Ryan and I were talking like, you don't drive up there in a buggy, let alone what we were doing. So pretty fortunate. But
it's like a high stress situation. And things could have easily turned into an argument or, me not knowing what I was doing and you frustrated with me, or you telling me things to do and then I get frustrated with you, but that's not at all what happened. And part of that is because way back in 2020, I was going to say a couple of years ago, but then I remembered it was more than a couple of years ago. It was like 4 years ago now. We had a bunch of fires that spring and summer. And I remember you telling the gal we were working with at the time Like when we go out on fires, it's going to sound like I'm yelling, but I'm not yelling. So don't take it personally. Like I remember you saying that to her. So that night when we were in the heat of it, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, you did holler at me a couple of times, but I didn't take it as you yelling at me. You were just directing me loudly so I could hear you, because also it's very loud with the water pump and all of that going on.
Yeah. A lot to watch out for sure.
But yay, rain.
Yay, rain. And I don't know how it happened, but the wind blew all day, and then the wind quit during the night, thank God. And then it come up about 4:30 that morning, and we had her managed pretty good, thankfully, for all the volunteer fire departments and everybody else that come out to save our bacon and the ranch.
There was a lot of thank God moments. Like if Ryan hadn't gotten up to get a drink, nobody would have known there's any fire burning.
Right.
Because it was the middle of the dang night.
Yep.
So lots of thank God moments. But now getting into how we prepare for busy season. One of the things that we started doing, I was going to try and look and see when we started that.
3 years ago. This is the third year.
This is the third year?
Yep.
A few years ago, we started doing a shared note. We both have iPhones, and we started doing a shared calving note. And it kind of just evolved into, oh yeah, no, this is our 4th year. We started in 2021.
With the calving?
Calving notes 2021. Oh, but I did it my own self. 2021. It's not shared. I looked it up on my phone. 2022. So you're right. 3 years we've been doing it. We started a shared calving note where we write down just, it's not even like who's calved and who hasn't calved. It's just notes about all the different things, like notes about odd things, notes about bad udders, notes about dry cows.
Cows that haven't cleaned.
Like
anything.
Yeah. Anything we put in there.
Anything that's not normal.
And it just keeps us both straight because we're not always out in the calving pasture together. It's usually one or the other of us. We kind of try and divide and conquer a little bit this time of year, especially when the kids are still in school.
Yes.
So it's just keeps us on track. And then at the end of the year, when we preg check the cows, we go back to that note because it contains our cull list. And it's just been really handy, don't you think?
Absolutely.
And then I think that was so handy that we started a feed note to keep track of our feed inventory.
Yep.
Which reminds me, I don't remember if I wrote my mineral down from this morning.
That's why you put dates on there.
Yeah, I think I did.
That helps too.
I think I did. Yep. 417, 2 salt, 2 min.
There you go.
But in addition to our shared note, last summer the first summer that we started writing on the door?
Yeah, I think so.
So I
wanted a big whiteboard, but
there wasn't a great place to put it.
No, and they're kind of ugly for as big a one as we needed.
Right.
Or we were gonna need.
Right. And if you don't take care of them,
yeah,
they start to not erase very well and all the things. I think glass is a little easier because you can put Windex on it. But we have, what do you even call that? It's not a French door because they don't
double
both,
door?
or it's not a double door because it's only one door.
I don't know. There used to be a sliding door there, and they took it out and put like one walk-through door, and
the other side is a big window. So we have, the moral of the story is we have 2 big windows.
Yes.
In our dining room.
Yep.
And Tom wanted a whiteboard last year. And like I said, there wasn't a great place to put one as big as he wanted. And like he said, they're kind of ugly and all the things. So we just started using dry erase markers on our windows of that door and its little side buddy. I don't know what you call it. But on one side we have had in the past, the days of the week and what's going on during those days of the week. And then on the other side is like a running list of projects that need to get done. Right now, it's what solars need to get moved to what pastures and a running list of projects that need to get done, though.
Yep. Fences to get around, pastures to make hot, make sure they're still hot, I guess.
Yeah.
Pretty handy.
And also, we do a shared iCal calendar in our phones.
A what? An iCloud?
iCal?
A what?
iCal. That's what your phone calendar is called.
Oh, I did not know that.
So we put like appointments, and when I have my coaching calls for the Good Movement Collective, that's in there. So we kind of keep track of things that way, but we keep track of things in multiple places because I don't know about you, but I kind of like seeing it on the door, like what's going on, what's happening.
Yeah. It's like the old school reminder in
your planner from high school.
Yeah.
Other than that, what do? We communicate.
I don't know. There's calving supplies in a lot of places this time
Oh
of year.
yeah. Oh yeah. We keep calving supplies and shop towels on our person at all times.
Yeah. OB sleeves for sure.
Yeah. You're allergic to the fluid.
Yeah.
Breaks out in hives if he touches a laboring cow without gloves on.
Yeah. Not all of them, but I'm not willing to find out which ones.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. It's getting worse.
Scares the crap out of you, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So it's just good to have gloves. And then the shop towels, when we were discussing this episode prior to pushing record, Tom was all, why do you always want to make poop jokes? And I'm like, shop towels, yes. Okay. When you're riding through the pasture, they're great in that sort of emergency. But also on more than one occasion, I've cut my finger, on a Red Brand fresh barbed wire gate that someone made really tight. Not to name names, but
Well, cows aren't out.
Tom D. And I've wrapped my finger in a shop towel because I don't have a Band-Aid, and it works really well. Like, shop towels are great for other things besides working in the shop.
Yep.
But beyond that, like communication wise, do we really change? The calving note, the feed note is year round. The door is mostly just when we get busy. We didn't use it during the winter.
No, because there wasn't a lot going on, but cow moves are, every day. Well, will be every day coming up, depending. At least every other day. So you got to have your pastures blocked off and which bunch needs moved. So we're calving in one bunch right now, and we'll get to the point where those cows will be earlies and late. So half the cows will be in one group as pairs, and that'll be like the first branding bunch. And then we'll calve to a date, and then anything past that date will be in the lates. But
the late
lates. So there'll be two big bunches to run through the summer, and that is pretty manageable for the way we're grazing.
Yeah. Last year we did your herd and my herd, and I think that's the plan this year too.
Yeah, I hope.
But we still have to communicate that. There's a lot more moving parts in this spring and summertime, I think, than the winter.
Yep.
Actually, I think April through November, there's a lot more moving parts than, say, November through March.
Yeah.
Or December through March.
I hate to call it seasonal, but April to November is like hell week in college.
Dead week?
No,
finals
hell week.
Oh.
And it lasts for 6 months.
Ever.
Months. Yeah.
Well, it seems like going into it, it's going to take forever and a day. And then pretty soon you're through it and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah. It goes fast. Time flies when you're having fun. Quote, quote.
But I think we talked about in a previous episode when we first started, how calving season went and how you were nervous, and I would have been nervous if I'd have known what was going on, but I didn't know because I came from a feed yard and I had no idea about calving cows. And I think for a lot of years, probably for the last the last 3 years for sure, like calving season has been kind of like, I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but
And you should knock on wood before and after, maybe.
no, but just like the anticipation of it, it's been no big deal to me. And I think partly that's because we've been doing, or I've been doing it for more years than like when I first moved from the feed yard to the ranch, but also because we've set ourselves up communication wise better in the last 3 years than we did prior to that. Cause it was just kind of like, I don't know, you can share your thoughts here too, but for some of those years, I felt like it was just fly by the seat of our pants kind of thing. Not that we were prepared to calve, but we weren't prepared for the communication part of it. You should see his face right now.
I don't know what to say, I guess. It comes every year, and I prep from November to April.
You prep to communicate with me?
No, mentally, like I got to get it on my mind that this is happening regardless. And
I don't know. I just feel like it hasn't been as much. I haven't felt as much pressure the last 3 years as I did prior to that.
Well, we've changed the program a little bit. So like the expectation of the cow is just to go be a cow. So we don't calve like most people. We range calve everything, heifers, cows, and we don't have a heifer herd on this unit this year. So all the cows there's not a lot of expectation. They have one job, and that's to go through labor and take care of their calf. And if they need supplemental feed, it's my job to know, or our job to know when that is needed and adjust accordingly. We don't tag like most outfits. We don't give birthing shots. We exercise pairs rather than pair out. So we move heavies away.
What are heavies? For those listeners who don't know,
Cows that haven't calved yet.
Pregnant cows. Pregnant cows equals heavy.
Yeah. And then,
so the method we use is called the Sandhills calving method because it was this is where it was tested. Is that what you say? I don't know that it was developed here.
I don't know.
They tested it here in the Sandhills. Or some people call it the leave behind calving method because instead of taking the pairs, the cow and her calf, and moving them to fresh pasture, you're leaving the pairs behind and moving the heavy pregnant cows to fresh pasture.
Right. And when you talk about that, a lot of people are intimidated and say that wouldn't work, but boy, it sure works slick because they don't want to be together. The pairs.
Yeah, I would much rather move heavies than pair out, honestly.
Well, we had better horses when we paired out. I will say that. Like,
better
you just don't have to work at it.
Better horses by what standard?
Well,
like
you were pairing out every one, right? So repetition and practice. So like
I never did pair out. I was at the feed yard when you were pairing out.
I mean, your horses really watch the cow a lot better because they're specifically watching one pair, and it's not just the cow you're working. It's a lot of times it's the calf you're working, and it's just different. But this is a whole lot easier.
Oh man, when the heavies, like you just have to know their daily routine.
Yeah.
And the heavies, moving them, if you know the daily routine, is so much easier than moving fresh pairs. And that, I mean, I guess that speaks to being socially aware, like with your cows. If you're aware of how they behave throughout the day, then you can work with them. I was actually thinking about that earlier today about working at the pace of nature and like not trying to go as fast as sometimes we want to go.
And mostly when she says you want to go, she means as fast as I want to go.
Yeah. This isn't you in general. This is you, Tom.
Yeah.
No.
I like to move. I like to be going. So I got to reel it in, right?
Yeah.
Got to reel it back.
Yeah.
And slow down.
I like to go at a sloth's pace.
Yeah, that's not my speed. Get there, get it done, and go on to the next.
That's why, but that's what's cool about, like, I think, is we kind of balance each other out in some of those ways.
Yeah.
You speed me up and I slow you down. I'm like an anchor.
You said it, not me. I did not say that.
But you're not disagreeing.
Never said anything. I said you said it, and we'll leave it at that.
But I think too, this time of year, like, okay, for example, yesterday morning you stayed on the fire and I came back to the house after we got it out. And you stayed out and watched hotspots.
And fixed fence.
And fixed fence because we were running fire trucks over the fence. Thankfully it was the high tensile hot fence and not barbed fence because like we said earlier, barbed fence, we'd had posts burning and it would have been burning a lot longer. And anyway.
Yep.
But I had come back to the house. I got kids up, got them to the bus, and then I went and did our chores around here. And then, like, I knew you probably weren't going to be back to the house until it started raining, but I just texted, "Hey, I'm in our cows." And you said, you know, how do they, like, we communicate more where we're at and what's going on and what we're doing this time of year than in general.
Yeah. Out here, you have to, like, even a text, "Hey, I'm headed to the cows," because, I mean, it's vast. You don't know where everybody's at. So if something did happen, you wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah. That's one thing I kind of do miss about where we were before we moved to this camp is that we consistently didn't have cell phone signal. And so we had handheld radios. But those didn't always work if you were too many miles apart either.
No, and you had to be at a pickup. I never had a handheld, did we?
Yeah, we bought those Motorola.
Oh, the little.
Yeah.
Oh.
When the kids were, I mean, they were a lot littler when we lived there, and I showed Trip how to use the radio because he didn't want to go along to check water, and I didn't really want to get. We just had the one girl at the time, but she was little, and I didn't want to get her all dressed up to go out in the cold to check water. So I showed Trip how to use the radio, and I could see the house from where they were just on the big meadow. And so I wasn't so much as like out the door, "Mom." And I don't even remember what he told me, but he told me like 100 things on that radio.
It was pretty little.
Good communication.
Yeah, as far as you know.
"Mom, I'm riding my rocking horse." No, I don't know if that's what he said, but it was stuff like that. What else you got, bro?
Don't call me that. Not much else. I feel like we haven't talked about anything related to
communication.
Yeah.
I think we did.
I mean, we communicate quite a bit.
I think we communicate pretty well throughout the year, but when it comes to this time of year, we just ratchet it up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot to enter that stuff in your phone, but when you think about, like, sometimes when I'm out there, like, I got to think to myself, like, okay, if I'm not out here tomorrow or if I'm not here tomorrow, what do they need to know? Like, we do month-end inventory every month. That stuff's turned in. And so that's, I guess, why I keep current on that stuff. Like, pretty much the instant I put it out, I try to put it in my phone, because if I get to doing other stuff, I'll get sidetracked. And to me, the difference is in the details. So I want that on there right away. So I guess that's why I put it in quick, because I'll forget. Because I can't remember what we had for breakfast or where we went or what the day was about. So.
Yeah, I'm not so good at putting the feed inventory in right away. But you used to, do you still keep a red book?
Nope. I quit. I gave it up because I got tired of carrying it in my pocket.
And losing it and
running it through the washer.
Yeah.
Dude, that thing was like a Bible. I mean, honestly, like, if I'd ever lost that, like, now this is pretty handy. I have a digital copy that's.
Yeah, and I can see it.
Yeah. Like, somebody can get it if they need it. Like,
right.
So, for instance, we calved another camp's cows one year because an unfortunate situation, and we made a lot of the cull cows were labeled at calving and bad bags and such. And then that fall, we had a new guy that had started at that camp, and he didn't have a cull list. So he did what he could to come up with a cull list based on what his observations were, but we pretty well
Share
had
the
it.
note with him.
Yeah, we pretty well had it covered because what we had done already. And so we weren't keeping junk cows around, that needed to be gone.
Yeah.
So that helped the following spring, not having cows that weren't doing their part.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We also put some like cheeky little notes next to some cows.
Yeah, that we won't share with everyone. But like if you see a dry cow and I see a dry cow, you put the date, I can like star it and then put the date.
Yeah.
So like you've seen it, I've seen it. You see a cow with a bad bag, you put it in there as a bad bag or udder or whatever, and I see her, I can put a star like, yeah, she needs to go. So we can prioritize those cows based on how many times you saw her or observed her. So if you are limited on your cull numbers based off your preg rate, you can sort those cows through the chute, which is what we do. And if you really had to keep X amount of cows, you're going to ship the worst of the worst, right? Like that's where you start. And we'd come back, but just communicate with everybody you got as to what's going on. And calving cows here is a lot different than calving heifers.
Yeah. But I'll say too, like last year when my dad died during calving season, it was easy for us because we both had to be gone. I mean, you came back that week, but for a few days, but we were both gone for more days than we've ever been gone during calving. Like we aren't gone during calving season.
No, ever.
So that was the first time that had ever happened since we've been here. And we were able to share that note with the other herdsmen who was covering our other herdsmen that were covering our herd. And then they could add to it if they like saw something while we were gone. So we were all on the same page.
Right.
So I don't know. I really like the shared note.
I do too.
And then, I mean, like, you don't have to look at we still do like a daily debriefing.
Right.
Whoever's been out in the cows, like, I moved yesterday and I came home and told you the whole story about the move.
Right. But those are important things, right? So like in preparing for calving, like we move those cows differently in preparation to calve.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times you're teaching those cows how to drive and take pressure. And when it comes to sorting heavies, we move those cows different. So we start them differently. And we start that, a couple weeks before calving or.
How do we start that?
Or, sporadically through the winter, just based off what you observe when you go in to move them.
Yeah. But how do we start them differently when we move during calving?
I don't know.
I know the answer to that. We start from the front.
Right.
I mean, we usually start from the front, but we especially start from the front when we're calving because your lead cows are not usually your pairs.
Right. It's difficult for me to explain because it's getting to be less and less all the time what you do with, we could just say we move from the front or start at the lead or we start at the gate, which I would call the front when we're calving. That's the easiest way to describe it. And hopefully that's where the good movement phrase came from. Hopefully you get a good draw and, what heavies don't come. If you do miss a heavy, thankfully our dystocia rates are accommodating, but it's not a big deal if you miss one because you might calve through the night. And if not, they'll bunch up overnight and you can move them out in the morning. And if you got a cow that leaves a calf and you didn't drive her away from the calf like she wanted to leave, if you just let her go, she's going to come back. You just have to be willing to go back there and let her go.
Yeah. And I would say, though, like the past couple of years where most of our herd we've had, the way it works on the ranch is you don't always calve the same cows twice. And we've had the same core group of cows now for a few years.
Yep.
And I would say that it is few and far between when a cow who's calved leaves with the heavies.
Yes.
Like they know the drill good enough now to know, like, oh, not my turn to move. I'm staying here.
But it is a little bit more difficult. You got to be more on the ball.
Aware of your own self. Like
Right.
yesterday when I moved, I told you, I'm like, we went at the pace I like, slop. Right. Wasn't quite as slow as sloth, but it was windy as all get out yesterday. And I had to take them into the wind, and it had started raining, which I was not complaining about the rain.
And
but
up a hill.
No, not really.
I'm just uphill both ways.
Oh, yeah. I was like, no, I didn't move uphill yesterday. But I was asking those cows to go in a really, like, cows don't normally walk into the storm or into the wind. They're not buffalo. They don't face it. They turn away from it. And that's what I was asking them to do yesterday. And it was slow, but it went really well. Also, full transparency, I was not a horseback yesterday.
Well, yesterday was a long day.
Yep, it started at 1 a.m. I did come back and take a nap, though.
Yeah.
I got 2 naps, actually. I napped from 5 to 6 a.m. till I had to get the kids up.
Yeah, it was a day for sure.
And it was very gusty. It was very gusty yesterday, like 50 miles an hour gusts. Isn't that what it was?
I don't know. It doesn't matter anymore. When it's windy, you just figure it's plus 30.
The moral of that little story is the move went well.
No, there's no damn moral. I just really like that story, that's all.
Bonus points if you can name that movie.
Oh, yeah. Just throwing a hat. We'll ship them a hat.
Or a bottle of steak rub.
There you go. But something I did want to mention, like, I have been to a Bud Williams school, and Bud talks a lot about getting your cows, gaining their trust, and getting them right. And I don't know how to explain them being right, but I guess I could say is if you don't have them right mentally, one, you're not going to get good movement that we talked about. And two, they're not, you're going to cause your own problems. So if you pick a fight with a cow, cows are smart and super sensitive. So in that fire, it just so happened there was 2 fires that night. So one was getting really close to the house, and that was the original one.
Not our house. One of the other houses on the ranch, not our house.
So the manager's house. And so that's where we headed originally. And then on our way, we came across another one that nobody knew about. And that one, by the time we got there, it was in the cows. So the cows were in
not our cows.
Not our cows. It was our unit.
Mm-hmm. But one of the other herdsmen's cows.
So when we got there, you never know how those cows are going to be. And it never made sense until that night, maybe, but your cows are going to be what you are. So if you're worked up, you're out of sorts, or you're panicked, I think your cows feel that energy. And a lot of, all the volunteers, that's their job. It's not their job, but like they do it a lot. So,
well, I was saying today, like, I feel like, I don't know if this is true. So if any of our volunteer firefighters are listening, you can confirm or deny this when I see you in town later. But kind of like the movie Twister, where all it's a high storm night or whatever. I don't know what you want to call it. But all the storm chasers are like just at the ready for whenever the tornado drops. I feel like that's what our volunteer firefighters do on nights like that, when it's windy and there's high fire danger.
Right.
Because there's just a lot of grass here. There's a lot could burn.
Right.
Anyway, continue.
But we got into that pasture where those cows were, and we tried to get a picture. We didn't get it done. But
I got a picture of my feet, though.
as we're bouncing through the pasture, there's only one and us other fire rig initially until everybody else got done putting out the other one. And then they came down. But we were driving up this great big monster hill, like where you should not be. And there's cows standing on the horizon, silhouetted by flames. And that is like a mental picture that I cannot.
It was very eerie.
And they were just standing there.
And at that point, it wasn't windy, but there was a slight breeze.
It's a fire.
And the fire is coming like
everywhere. It's just moving
toward them. And they're just standing there like so chill. It was so.
A lot of them were laying down yet.
Eerie. And of course, the fire at that point wasn't, I don't think it ever moved fast.
It didn't. Thankfully, the wind was not what it was. And the wind was switching directions a lot.
Oh my gosh, right?
But those cows were just cool as cucumbers. I mean, they never got worked up. And maybe it's because it was dark. I don't know. But it was a.
But I think you're right. Something. I think you're right, too. They feel your energy. Not that they were feeling ours before we got there. But the same can be said for when you're working with other humans. Other humans, I think a little bit we've been trained out of being sensitive to other people's feelings and energy. But you can still, I think you could work on your sensitivity there and pick up on it easier. But even if you're not very good at it, you can still feel the energy of somebody who's really worked up, even if they don't say it.
Right. So, the original call was scared, and rightfully so. I mean, the damn thing was at his house front door, very close to, it was too close. But as we got to the other one, I mean, I flat told the fire department, like, I can get you to the fire, but I don't know if we can get up there. And we got in the pasture where it was at, and we needed to go up. And he said, no problem, up here, follow me. And we did, because I didn't know it at the time. We didn't have any lights on the flatbed. We had one headlight burned out on a reliable truck.
We had one. I didn't know we had one headlight.
Yeah, one of the brights was burned out. So thankfully, with the dims on, we could kind of see. But I mean, they have guys riding on the front, right? Because a grass rig here has a bumper that they stand on, and the guys spray off the front of the truck. And we don't have that on the ranch trucks. So you're behind me in the you're behind the cab, like the person spraying water is behind the cab.
Which was me.
Which was you.
Because I didn't want to drive.
And I didn't want to drive either. But you're going up stuff steep enough that you can't see it down when you get to the top. And in the sand hills, I don't know if people know what a blowout is. You don't come back from driving off some of those. And so
I for sure wouldn't.
Safety is a huge thing.
And communication. Like that night, you were doing a great job driving, but you would say, am I good here? Because I was up higher than you could.
Right.
And so I could see a little bit better. But also, there were times where I was watching where I was spraying, like putting little fires out.
Yeah, you have to have your head on a swivel because you have to watch where we're going. I have to watch where you're spraying. You have to watch where you're spraying. I have to watch where I'm going. It's pretty intense.
What's that line from the Lorax? I'm a spider's head on a monkey's body. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
Anyway, he's talking about having eyes everywhere.
And that's what you got to do. And things break down, pumps break down. You have to watch for the other guys. I don't even remember. Was it just when we got started that the other pump wasn't running and we drove over there because it was at that guy's feet?
Yeah.
And you were spraying. And I said, no, put the fire out.
Well, you're like, put him out.
Well, he was.
You said, put him out. So I sprayed it.
We should maybe call him.
Because I was looking down. I didn't see what you saw. I was looking down, spraying. And you're like, put him out. And I was like,
It was at his tire. The flames were underneath his truck, and he was trying like hell to get something done.
Yeah, you said put him out, so I assumed it was the person. But then, as I thought about it, I'm like, he's in his whole bunker gear. Yeah. He's not on fire.
His truck damn sure was in it. And it wasn't intentional. It's just where it got to. They were trying to get going, and
which he was in his bunker gear, so he didn't get soaked.
No. Oh, I forgot about that.
Fire lung.
Ugh.
Okay, well, we've bounced around a lot of places here. We've talked about fires. We've talked about how we prep for calving season with our notes. We've talked about moving cows. We've talked a little bit about poop.
Oh my God, let go.
Is there anything else you want to add?
No, but there's a lot of opportunities in there for good communication. I mean, that was yesterday, right? Yesterday morning.
Oh my gosh, isn't it weird?
So essentially, like, no sleep, and we're still getting along. I mean, that says a lot, I think, because I mean, it could have very easily gone the other way if people had got bent out of shape about stuff.
If we'd have got, yeah. I didn't have my Garmin watch on to see what my stress level was during that, but I didn't feel like overly, I think, like you said, you were calm. The volunteer firemen were calm. Like everybody that I was in contact with was calm. And I think that helped a lot too.
So I've been on several fires, but there's one guy on that crew in particular that I'd go a long ways for. And thankfully he was the guy that was leading us up the hill. He was leading the charge, and I was like, I'm your man. I'm right behind you. And ended up being in front of him when we got to it, which it just, I don't know. It wasn't cool, but it was a decent experience. Your first fire, especially in the dark. And the guys told me to tell you did a great job, but in a very stressful place where we should not have been in the dark.
Well, we should have been there because we needed to get it out before the wind came up, but place you don't want to be.
I went back up there in the daylight that morning to fix fence with the fire rate because, it's still hot. There's still hot spots. There's cow turds and yuccas that are on fire, but if you can't believe in God, go on a fire. He'll change your mind.
Well, I think that's a pretty good spot to end. So, with that, until next time, draw good movement. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm so grateful for you. If you found value in this episode, I'd love for you to share with others who might also benefit from tuning in. Share by word of mouth, send it in a text, take a screenshot and post it on social media, or share however you prefer. And if you haven't already, hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, draw good movement.